El gobierno corrupto.
This is Kilmar Obrego Garcia, and in this video he's saying corrupt government as he has officially turned himself into Homeland Security.
You know, this new lawsuit means Obrego Garcia will not be immediately deported, but it doesn't guarantee that deportation won't eventually happen.
So Kilmar is supposed to be deported to Uganda, and a federal judge suspects that Uganda is being used as a scare tactic against Kilmar Obrego Garcia, despite him qualifying to still be deported. So we're going to dig into all of this. Now, before we start the video, make sure you guys please like the video. It's the #1 way you guys are helping this channel, but it also helps others see the videos as well, and people need to see what's going on with Kilmar Obrego Garcia, because either way, your taxes are paying for this.
This has been going on since March 15th, at least with the Trump administration. Do you think that today will bring it to an end?
I don't think it will bring it to an end, but the end is coming for Obrego Garcia in terms of being able to be free on American soil. He's going to be deported. And one of the things that's interesting, this judge in Tennessee kind of created this whole issue by releasing him, putting ICE on the spot that they have to deport him because he's a danger to the community. And being on electronic monitoring simply means somebody is on a bracelet that if they decide to cut off and do harm to Americans or go try to escape, we have to go and try to find them, which is not in the interest of public safety. So
I do find it rather interesting. Kilmar Obrego Garcia says corrupt government on camera, yet that same government did release him and allow him to walk free when many others do not get this chance. Now, technically speaking, Kilmar Obrego Garcia does not have a criminal charge, but to Homeland Security, they don't care. You are an illegal immigrant, and you are wearing a monitor, so in a sense, to Homeland Security, this is still a danger or a threat. So this is why he was immediately ordered to come to the Homeland Security office and turn himself in, which is why we now have this video.
El gobierno corrupto.
So at this point, here's where things get a little confusing, because again, Kilmar is still pending charges in Tennessee for human smuggling. At the same time, he's being held in Maryland. ICE is ready to deport him, but a judge has just halted everything. So currently we are at this standstill.
And Jonathan, if we strip away all the noise surrounding this case, forget the wife-beating allegations, forget the MS-13 alleged gang membership, forget the alleged human trafficking, at the end of the day, he's still an illegal alien from El Salvador with a deportation order. He just has something called withholding of removal, which means he just can't go to El Salvador, but he can go anywhere else in the world. Is that right?
that's exactly right. I'm glad you pointed that out. He's already had due process, and a judge ordered him deported, and the only reason he wasn't deported to El Salvador is because he claimed he'd be in danger there. And now we also know things have changed in El Salvador, where it's significantly safer, certainly significantly safer than the state of Maryland these days. So yes, he's been ordered deported. He can go home to El Salvador. He could go somewhere else. But this administration is crystal clear. He doesn't get to stay here.
Real quick, if you haven't already, make sure to please subscribe to my channel so I can keep you guys up to date with this story, especially if Kilmar does get deported to Uganda. I want to make sure I update you guys on that. One thing we're learning about the Kilmar Obrego Garcia case is this idea of due process. I'm going to be blunt with you guys. The majority of illegal immigrants do not get this at all. Like, at all. When we talk about due process, think about Alligator Alcatraz. All of those illegal immigrants get due process. They legally have to get due process, but it's not like anything we're seeing with Kilmar.
Now, we learned over the weekend that Obrego Garcia turned down a plea deal that could have sent him to Costa Rica. His attorneys say what followed was the Trump administration attempting to punish Obrego Garcia by sending him to Uganda, where he worries that all the publicity could put his life at risk. They filed a lawsuit to ensure a hearing, and now the same Maryland judge overseeing Abrego Garcia's lawsuit over being wrongfully deported the first time says ICE is, quote, absolutely forbidden from removing Abrego Garcia while she determines if his due process rights have been violated.
Okay, this is like one of the biggest questions I see surrounding this Kilmar case. Why would you not want to go to Costa Rica? Now you're going to end up in Uganda. Well, this is what Kilmar is pretty much saying. He doesn't want to say he's guilty because according to him, he's done nothing wrong. So morally speaking, he's not going to admit to something he hasn't done. Now, as we know in the US court of law, this is unfortunately a very common thing where you do have these plea deals. But when it comes to Kilmar Abrego Garcia, this is sort of a different thing because no matter what, he's going to be punished in the aspect of deportations. Now, I also looked up, is the United States legally obligated to send an illegal immigrant somewhere where they feel comfortable or somewhere they know the language? That is not a part of the law. That is just something the US does to be nice or, morally speaking, a good thing for that illegal immigrant so they're not put in a spot where they know nothing and no one. But again, legally speaking, the US does not have to send Kilmar Abrego Garcia into an area where he feels a little more comfortable, which is why Uganda was thrown out there. Now, here's the thing. A lot of outlets are not talking about this. I've said it before. I do think Uganda could backfire on the Trump administration, which is why they haven't fully said if they're going to send him to Uganda. This is because when it comes to sending an illegal immigrant to Uganda, basically Uganda has requested, can the person at least be African or be of African descent? Also, we want somebody who doesn't have a criminal history. So, number one, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, technically speaking, does not have a criminal history on record or on paper. But number two, Abrego Garcia is not African, so I don't know how this is going to work, sending Kilmar to Uganda where it doesn't really line up with the deal Uganda had with the United States.
The DHS notified on Friday at 4 p.m. that they may remove him to Uganda in 72 hours. Can you confirm that?
Look, Uganda's on the table. We'll see. I mean, you know, DOJ's, you know, our immigration attorneys and the judges, they're all in negotiations, and we'll see what happens. But Uganda's on the table. We have an agreement with them. It's on the table, absolutely.
Now, quick disclaimer, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So if the United States wants to send Kilmar to Uganda, Uganda will probably say yes, especially if Donald Trump makes one phone call or they get a phone call from a higher up official from the Trump administration. It's probably going to happen. One thing we're learning about these deportations, when the Trump administration wants you deported and you are not an American citizen and you came into the country illegally, you will probably 10 out of 10 times be deported eventually if you are caught.
But President Trump and Secretary Noem have taken strong action. They've arrested this individual and made sure this known public safety threat, a gang member, a human trafficker, someone who has solicited child pornography, a wife beater, that he is arrested and he is no longer a threat to the American people.
What you just outlined to me is, again, it's another one of these moments where you think, how in the hell have so many people gotten behind this guy?
Okay, so a lot of this has to do with the information side of things. Homeland Security has really been paying attention to who's backing Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and they are posting it all over their social medias. Here's who Homeland Security really put on blast. Number one, of course, is Chris Van Hollen. Chris Van Hollen is the guy who went down to El Salvador, and the pictures of him sipping on margaritas, that's him. But also, they posted Elizabeth Warren. They've also posted Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, and they've posted Representative Glenn Ivey. Now, one thing I do want to say is this. There are other representatives who went down to El Salvador, but we're really not seeing too much of them. It looks like they're focusing on some other things, but at one point, a lot of representatives were really backing Kilmar Abrego Garcia and other individual illegal immigrants. Now, what always ends up happening is you start to hear a little bit more about about their past, that's one thing. But when you start to see videos and pictures and a girlfriend, now wife, who has had a restraining order on a person, this is where a lot of politicians start to back away and focus on the generalities of deportation, or, you know, they need due process, not specifically Kilmar or other illegal immigrants, but generally speaking. So I just want to point that out. We're seeing less and less politicians who are really standing up for Kilmar.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, MS-13 gangbanger and human trafficker Kilmar Abrego Garcia turned himself into ICE in Baltimore. Do you have any comment on this? And why are the Democrats so emotionally attached to this man who beats his wife and is part of a terrorist organization?
Because they think he's going to be good for votes, and I think he's very bad for votes. These people are deranged. He's not good for votes. He beat the hell out of his wife. His wife is afraid to even talk about him. She's been mauled by this animal. And, you know, through a system of liberal courts, you know, he's doing things. But, no, we have that under control. And Pam has got that very much under control. Do you want to comment on it?
No.
So here's the thing. You have to remember, a lot of Americans, not only Donald Trump, saw all of this and still see all of this as highly political, as an agenda mover. You have to remember, when these trips were being done down to El Salvador with the politicians who were going down to view Kilmar Abrego Garcia in the detention center, they wanted to see what it was like down there. Some of them were requesting that the trip was paid for by the taxpayers, and that already was a massive red flag, and a lot of people were very upset with what they were seeing behind the scenes. So I'm just trying to throw that out there. I think a lot of people, generally speaking, are not too happy with what's going on here, and statistically speaking, in America, the majority of Americans are okay with deportations. Now, you add on top of that where you see some favoritism, Americans generally don't like things like this. I'm really just trying to give you guys the full story here.
We spoke with members of the Tennessee Immigration and Refugee Rights Coalition, or TURC, who say the idea of being deported to a third country should be alarming for everyone.
It's illegal, it's dangerous, it's inhumane, and if they can do it to an immigrant, we have to be very aware that their next step is to send U.S. citizens overseas when we disagree with what they have to say or the way that they're doing things.
Or what you've had to do.
Members of TURC traveled to Baltimore to greet Abrego Garcia, who they've worked with over the months he spent in custody here in Tennessee. We know that prosecutors have said that if Abrego Garcia is deported, then there's virtually no chance they can bring him back to continue with trial that's currently scheduled for January 2026. Abrego Garcia's attorneys filed a motion last week to dismiss the charges altogether, calling them both, quote, vindictive and selective prosecution.
So here's where the gray area is. I did say the United States is not legally obligated to send you somewhere where you speak the same language or where you feel comfortable. That is not a legal obligation. Where the United States is legally obligated, you cannot send an illegal immigrant somewhere where they are probably going to be, you know, taken out, or they're going to be tortured, basically. So this is what the argument seems to be, that by sending Kilmar over to Uganda, he is way more likely to be tortured or to be taken advantage of due to all of the press and all of the, you know, misconceptions about Kilmar. This is the argument, it looks like, from this side of things, as far as what these advocate groups are talking about, the lawyer, and possibly the judge. Now, again, I do want to mention, this is not the same as sending Kilmar to a country where, you know, they don't speak the same language, so we do have to make that distinction.
I think it is a political issue. I also think it's a national security issue. Prince George's County in 2019, their gang unit determined that Garcia was an MS-13 gang member. His wife in 2021, the wife that's now giving lengthy testimonies about how great he is, said that he's a serial abuser, and she has a ton of photos to showcase said abuse. I agree, due process is absolutely important. We want to maintain that, but I think there's absolutely enough here to send this guy somewhere else. One, he's already broken the law. We've already established that. Now you do have evidence suggesting that he was a member or is a member of MS-13. He's also a serial abuser. This is not the type of individual I don't think any one of us would want in our country. He should be deported.
But respectfully, Sir Michael, we can't make it about Kilmar. Like, that's just one person.
But that's the case we're talking about.
That is, but I guess if we look at the macro and not the micro, and just look at the process of this, because he's not the only person there. There were they indiscriminately rounded up people and deported them. We also saw in the news this week, maybe it was last week, it's been a long year this week, but the Massachusetts attorney who got the letter saying that you have 7 days to leave the country. This administration has already proven that there are flaws in this system, and they are randomly deporting people without due process. That's not specific to him. That should be specific to all of us.
And we are still talking about Kilmar Obrego Garcia. I'm going to be honest with you, I really cannot recall or think of any other illegal immigrant that we have talked about more than Kilmar Obrego Garcia as far as the amount of chances he's been given for this due process or for new deportation orders. Because again, what's interesting about all of this is that he will be deported. He has a court order to be deported. What the argument is, where will he be deported? That's pretty much what people are arguing. The judge is saying, is he being deported to Uganda in order to bully him, or is everything here constitutional? Are we following the laws? That's what we're seeing here. And as somebody who covers all things deportations, protesters, everything in this category, we don't see anything like this. In fact, we see the exact opposite. We see like a mother or a father who gets picked up and they get immediately deported. They get their due process, but nothing like this. So it's just something to think about when now he's on camera saying corrupt government. If anything, I think what we're seeing here is a government who is willing to give you a lot of chances and follow the law, because that's pretty much what we're seeing right here. And no matter what, to follow the law, they will, and they're going to deport Kilmar Obrego Garcia. Alright, that's pretty much all I have for you guys. It looks like we're still going to be talking about Kilmar Obrego Garcia for a while now, and I guarantee when he does get deported, wherever he goes, there will probably be politicians who will follow him. I'm pretty sure that will happen if we already saw it with El Salvador. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. God bless, and we'll see you all later.